So to start off with, could you please introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about what you do at Curia?
Sure. So I'm Christopher Conway, president of R&D. Been with the organization for about 15 years. Curia is an R&D and manufacturing CDMO, providing services from early phase drug discovery through commercial manufacturing of both drug substance and drug product in both small molecule and large molecule. Sri?
My name is Sripathy Venkatraman. I go by Sri. I'm the Vice President and Head of R&D Global Operations at Curia. My responsibilities are all operations within our R&D business unit. Been with the company now for 22 years. Overall, around 27 years in the healthcare industry.
Fantastic, thank you. To start off with, Chris, can you tell us about what are the top trends impacting the pharma industry today, please?
Sure. So I think generally speaking, I'm not sure if I would call it a trend or just a challenging market situation post-COVID, particularly in the biotech sector. It's been, in the last 20 to 25 years, there's been 4 different downturns, and this particular downturn in the biotech funding market is actually a couple of quarters longer than the longest one in that 20 to 25 year time frame. So while many companies were benefiting from the influx of funding to support COVID, whether that be R&D or downstream manufacturing over the last couple of years, kind of the post-COVID world is a different world. And so biotech companies are struggling to secure funding. Pharma companies that are tapping into innovation from biotech companies are struggling to find that innovation. And so it's been a bit of a challenging market from that perspective for both biotech and pharma organizations. That said, I would say the trend is more towards prioritization of pipeline. Many companies are focused more on later phase programs, phase 3 and beyond. And while they still have robust pipelines that are earlier, preclinical and phase 1, they're spending most of their time and effort and resources on the later phases. What I've seen over the last 2 quarters is actually somewhat of a stabilization, though. So funding is starting to come out. There's from VCs and other funding sources, we're starting to see some stable funding coming from government as well. And so I think we're about to make a turn. I think it's too early to call, but it's certainly a change from the last 6 to 8 quarters in the last 2 quarters. So, more programs are starting to be worked on. Pharma companies and government are starting to kind of pull the trigger on some stuff that has been on the back burner for the past year or 2. And so again, I think the industry is about to turn the corner.
Fantastic. And Sri, how about on the more technical side? Are you seeing any trends in types of modalities?
Definitely. After COVID, there seems to be a lot of interest in funding for the biologic type molecules, the gene therapies, the mRNAs, the antibodies, and a lot of the small molecules they've put in the back burner. But now with the funding actually slowly starting to turn around, we are seeing more and more of the small molecules come out as well. So I think that's a good sign in my opinion.
Fantastic. And I know you've touched on biologics, and I know mRNA with the COVID vaccines, and that's an area that you've invested in at Curia. So I just wondered if you could talk a bit about the benefits of mRNA-based therapies.
There are a lot of benefits with an mRNA therapeutic. Of course, the first and the foremost thing is the manufacturing part. Compared to a small molecule, manufacturing an mRNA product is much simpler, much quicker. It just is in comparison to a small molecule. Especially with the new in vitro transcriptase, transcription, it's so much easier. You don't necessarily need to involve a cell. That's one of the big advantages. Compared to DNA therapeutics, mRNA is much less toxic. So that's an added advantage, for you to directly get in. mRNA is much better than directly injecting an antibody into the body. Having an antibody, make an antibody and just inject it into the body. I think mRNA is so much better from all those substances. From our perspective, focusing on R&D work for mRNA, making our own plasmids and moving forward with an mRNA is the best I would say approach to capitalize on some of the demand that we have in the mRNA market.
Fantastic. And what about the challenges? Because I know we've had the success with COVID vaccines, but what about the challenges with mRNA-based therapies?
It's still new in the market, right? So getting the template done itself is it takes some time. So we need to focus on that. Purification is a big issue. The good part of that is the amount of material that you need from a volume perspective is much lower compared to a small molecule, even compared to an antibody. So that's a good part of that. But getting a pure form, purifying the material to meet the quality demands, that's definitely a challenge. You need expertise there. And Curia is one such place where we have a lot of expertise in purifying mRNA type therapeutics, mRNA type molecules. So I think that's one challenge that I can see, control the impurity, especially the double-stranded DNA, which is the common impurity there. Get it at high purity. I think that's a challenge.
I would say also from a market perspective, COVID kind of launched or relaunched mRNA interest, and post-COVID, I think a lot of companies are trying to really hone in on the right utility for mRNA, where it was kind of the shiny ball for a couple of years during COVID. Now it's kind of a lot of companies have actually gone away that were focused on mRNA, and the ones that are left are trying to figure out, what's the best application and who are the best manufacturing partners to work with, like a Curia, for example.
Absolutely. I just wanted to follow up on what Sri mentioned about the challenges with the purification. And I wondered if you could elaborate on some of the kind of technologies and techniques we're seeing in that space.
Definitely. ACTA is one system that's used routinely and for most part of mRNA purification. It is on large scale purification that where we need to look into for newer technologies there. At this point of time, the demand for an mRNA, the volumes, the commercial volumes are fairly low. So that's a good thing. And just going up in scale with an ACTA system or a parallel equivalent to an ACTA system is a good technology from a purification perspective. But again, there's a lot of research going on in that field. And I think more research and more innovation is yet to come there.
And in terms of the research that you're doing at Curia, can you kind of give us some highlights, what you're working on at the moment?
We are looking into continuous flow for mRNA. So we are partnering with, it's still in process, so I don't want to give the name of the company we're working with at this point of time, but we are partnering with a university to use continuous flow chemistry for the production of mRNA. That is one area that we are seriously looking into. That will accelerate the timelines in producing mRNA. So that's an area that we are looking into.
I would say also that in the topic of continuous flow, we're also partnering with Corning actually on the small molecule side. So not just mRNA, but again, post-COVID, there was an effort to reshore many of the APIs that were offshore for many years. And so continuous flow chemistry and manufacturing processes have become kind of main stage. And so although Curia has 10, 15 years of experience in continuous flow, I think that's been ramped up pretty significantly. So we're seeing a lot more interest from the market in not only research and development phase flow chemistry, but also larger scale manufacturing as well.
Fantastic. Sticking on the continuous flow side, I mean, what are the main benefits of continuous flow?
there are lots of benefits like using continuous flow chemistry. But again, I want to differentiate between continuous flow chemistry versus continuous flow processing. And at Curia, we are more focused like on continuous flow processing, which is basically not just limiting to the chemistry part there, but taking it all the way to isolating the molecule, continuous isolation, continuous distillation, continuous centrifugation. Where we see continuous flow chemistry as mostly useful are in those areas which are conventionally not done in a batch mode, like high pressure reactions, low temperature reaction or high temperature reactions, photochemistry, electrolysis, in those kind of chemistries which are not easily scaled up in a batch mode. So as Chris said, we have a partnership with Corning, and any such areas or any such methodologies that are conventionally not easily done using a batch mode, we try to adopt it to a flow chemistry mode.
Fantastic, thank you. And just looking more broadly, what emerging technologies are you seeing in the space at the moment?
Definitely artificial intelligence. Probably that's a common answer that you're going to receive from a lot of people. And I'm convinced that artificial intelligence is going to change the way we do research, from discovery all the way through manufacturing, and development. In development, is an area where process optimization, both for small molecules as well as for biologics, artificial intelligence is going to change. Both artificial intelligence and machine learning, it's going to change the way how we conduct process research, discovery research, mRNA synthesis. Pretty much the whole drug discovery process is going to be changed there. A lot of things that you are currently doing in terms of data collection is going to be using predictive analysis. And I think that's the way the industry is going to turn around.
Sri, could you elaborate a bit more on the potential applications of AI?
Pretty much it's from all the way from drug discovery to manufacturing. My background is in development. I can give an example in a development from a process development point of view. Developing a process is an iterative process, right? So you start a process, you develop a process, you take it to manufacturing, and then you start understanding some of the engineering considerations there, in terms of heat transfer, mass transfer, optimizing some of the parameters there. But when you have a machine learning process, or even artificial intelligence, I know artificial intelligence and machine learning, they are slightly different. But again, it all falls under the umbrella of artificial intelligence there. Is when it starts learning from your data input, when it can predict, I think that's where you save time and you get quality results there. I think that's what is going to be cutting time and getting quality results and having a safe process. That's good enough.
Fantastic. And Chris, your take on AI?
Yeah, similar to Sri's perspective, I would say that the major impact is speed. And we saw through the COVID years an ability to go from preclinical to commercial product in record timelines, where historically it would take 3, 4, 5 years. Many companies or organizations were doing it in 18 to 24 months or less. So essentially the accelerated timelines now, with the application of AI, it's a whole new ballgame. And so, the ability to predict, in addition to the kind of intellectual input from the process development chemists who are working on these things, is going to put us in a position where we can get drugs to market that much sooner.